Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Ideas at Work and Beyond. Let me just start with Pathways Academy, this dynamite young school that started over on Rose Street. We had the privilege of talking to Bill Beatty and the principal, Cedric Rice, at the school. We've shot extensive video. Some wonderful young people were at the school, and that is going to be aired tomorrow. That's Friday, from 12 noon to 1 o'clock. So you'll want to check in for that. And we're also going to re-air the Pathway Academy show next Thursday from 9 to 10 and next Friday from 12 to 1 as well. So there'll be plenty of time. But it turns out we had an extra bonus. We had some time in studio to come to you live on this historic time when there is a new president, an African-American. Barack Obama is president-elect of the United States. It is absolutely historic what has taken place. We're going to roll some newspaper headlines that have come in, and just seeing what's taking place is absolutely historic. The director of our program is blowing bubbles onto the set to just highlight some of the celebration. What I've seen in the United States is its ability to revitalize itself, its ability to redefine itself, its ability to grow and expand. I've got to think what a privilege it is to be an American to see this transpire. Now, I'm a Republican, and I voted for John McCain. There are many policies that Barack Obama talked about in his campaign that I have real concerns about. But at this stage, in this week, I feel proud to be an American. I see a link, a transition, from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King, and now we have an African American in the White House. A man whose father came from Kenya, Africa, whose mother came from the heartland of the United States, Kansas, who had a rough childhood but came out of it, and he's aspired to the highest office in the land. At some level, putting politics aside just for a moment, you have to say it's a proud day to be an American. And we stand behind our president-elect, and we wish him all the best because it's going to be a rough, rough road ahead. I'm so into this stuff, I actually went online. You'd think, when does this guy actually work? And I downloaded the text of the Gettysburg Address, and I downloaded the text of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, and I downloaded the text of Barack Obama's speech on election night, where he makes reference both to the president from Illinois, Abraham Lincoln, and also makes echoes back to Martin Luther King, and that he is actually now the fulfillment of that speech, I Have a Dream. He's the fulfillment of the dream. Anyways, we're going to dedicate this whole program to looking at this, what has taken place. We're seeing history unfold in our own day, in our own time. The phone number here is 792-4101, 792-4101. We're going to have a storied professor from Howard University calling in. We also have some taped interviews with Congressman Chris Murphy. We're also going to get into a little bit some of the election results from some of the more local races. But this is really a historic time. If you would have looked back and you would have asked someone even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, that someday there would be an African-American president, I think people just simply would not believe it. But this democracy, this free society that we have, free for people to move up in social class, the ability to be upwardly mobile, the ability to better yourself, the ability to rise to the level that your merits will allow, regardless of your race, regardless of your background, regardless of where you were born, is certainly exemplified in the presidency of Barack Obama. It's pretty exciting. Again, I voted for John McCain. I have some real concerns about Mr. Obama's policies, and I hope for the best. But at the same time, I think it's important to right now take a step back and look and try and digest what just happened. And to do that, we have Mr. Al Robinson.
How's it going?
Good. Appreciate very much. I hope I didn't get too long-winded.
No, you did good. You did good.
It's very exciting. I came across this shirt, which I'm donating to you, my gift to you.
Perfect.
And
Love it.
it seemed to capture it. Martin Luther King, passing the torch, as it were, to Barack Obama. Barack Obama, the fulfillment of so many people's yearnings and so many people's wishes. And at a lot of levels, this week, people are they just can't believe it. It's beyond their comprehension.
It's amazing. You look at this image here, and you think about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I think it was 65.
Yeah.
Who would have thought 4 decades later, we would be talking about an African American as president of the United States?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I still can't believe it. I know it happened. I saw it on TV. I saw the results, but it's something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. And I feel so sad that my grandparents were not here to witness this moment. I can tell you times where they talked about protests they attended, Jim Crow laws they had to deal with, teachers and people tell them, well, you can't do this. You'd be better doing X, Y, and Z. Now I live in an era where I can tell my daughter, you can do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to. You can be president one day.
Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I would never have thought this would have happened. Never. Not in a million years. And it's very nice. It was overwhelming. Overwhelming.
Yeah.
Funny thing that happened. I was after the results came in, I went down to a place to watch the speech. I went to a bar, and
you needed a drink.
I needed a drink. It was just amazing. And the place was just rowdy, just a lot of celebrating and everything. But when Obama went on and he started to speak, you could hear a pin drop.
Okay.
Everybody, and it was the weirdest thing in the world. Everybody was just focused on the TV screen and listening to these guys' words, and it was just amazing. I'm overwhelmed by it. I know it's a great moment. I know a lot of people are still very excited about this, and I'm happy and excited to see what will happen as we go forward with this new administration.
Yeah. No, it really, on some levels, you know, even in my extended family, I'm such sort of a hardcore Republican, and you know, people, oh yeah, Marty, your guy lost, you know, what do you think? And I almost beside myself at some level. Again, like I say, I disagree with many of his policies. I'm concerned about the direction he's talking about, you know, kind of a Robin Hood, take from the rich, give to the poor. I think it actually was Abraham Lincoln that said you can't lift the wage earner up by tearing down the wage payer. But be that as it may,
I mean, for this, about politics, we can get into it.
I guess
talk about the last 8 years.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. But the fact that we have someone who has risen to the highest office in our land, to me, is just very exciting. I mean, now let me just sort of throw this out. Does this mean we can finally say that we are a post-racist society? I mean, does this put an end to the racist sort of politics of discontent? Oh, the man's keeping us down, you know, we can't aspire to it. I mean, at this point, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, is America the land of opportunity for all, and you can rise as high as your merits will allow?
I think that
the answer to that question is
no.
Yes. It's a resounding yes.
No,
go ahead.
Absolutely not. It's a great step forward.
Step forward.
It's an amazing step forward.
Top.
But there's still many steps to go. There's still many areas where we have inequality. Speaking about racism, we're in Danbury here. You want to talk about situations between Latinos and racism and xenophobia? You have that going on right there. There's still many areas where, let's not just say racism, but maybe discrimination or inequality, a woman still not being paid on the same level as a man. Again, we could go back to the Latino issue if you want to. But this is a great step forward, and this shows that we are on our way.
Okay. I mean, I would probably emphasize it a little bit more and say this is a definitive moment in the history of the United States, and I think it's the final nail in the coffin of any concept that there is a racist bias out there that limits someone's ability to progress. I mean, every American had a chance to vote for Barack Obama. It was not just African Americans that brought him to the highest office in the land. It was everybody. And I just think that if you would have told, I mean, it's interesting because I was reading in the Gettysburg Address, and he talked about the concept that all men are created equal, and he gave the speech on the battlefield. He says it is for us, the living, rather to dedicate here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. The unfinished work. For him, the unfinished work was talking about just having a black man be freed.
Right.
And then it goes on and says that we have a new birth of freedom, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And then you move forward to the I Have a Dream speech, and he starts with, 80 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. So Martin Luther King picks up on what Lincoln talked about in the Emancipation Proclamation and builds on that. And listen to what he says. He says, we need to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. And I'm thinking with Barack Obama's presidency, we are on that solid rock of brotherhood. We have achieved it. I mean, I don't believe Martin Luther King would have believed that we would have an African-American president.
I don't think anybody would have believed a year ago that we would have an African-American president.
Okay.
I just, again, it was an amazing thing. But to take the stretch and say that there's no more racism in this country, where just a few weeks ago I saw the most disgusting images about Barack Obama on stickers and the whole Muslim thing, like there's something wrong with being a Muslim, although he's not a Muslim. Okay, let's get that clear. Yeah. There is still a lot of. No, don't get me wrong. This is a great achievement, but let's just not dismiss it. Let's not give the notion that there is no racism anymore in this country. Yeah. A lot of people still go back and they think about Katrina and the events that happened during the flooding of New Orleans, and you still look at New Orleans right now. It really isn't that much rebuilt. And they wonder, well, what happened?
And you think that's because there were African Americans in New Orleans?
A lot of people still say that. What would happen if that hurricane didn't go through New Orleans and went to another affluent area or affluent city? Would they get the response quicker? You had see people there 5 days later still crying for help, and nobody came for them. And I'm not saying that race had something to do with it personally. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a lot of people still look at that and say, hey, look, see.
Yeah, but I mean, at some point, can't we get beyond the politics of discontent? Can't we get beyond this kind of victim mentality? I
guess it depends. I guess it depends on where you
in the White House.
I guess it depends on where you come from.
All right. Well, I come from the pearly white suburbs. I've never been discriminated against a day in my life.
It is definitely.
And I have no, sense of balance on this.
Yeah, it definitely depends upon what side of the railroad tracks you come from. I live as an African American. Therefore, I know, because I've lived it, the experiences of discrimination on many types of levels that you would probably not ever have to deal with.
Never.
So it's different, you gotta live in my shoes for
it. Here's a quote from Barack Obama's speech. It says he's talking about his campaign, and that there's a new generation. It says it was built by working men and women who dug into what little savings they had to give $5, $10, $20 to the cause. It grew from the young people who rejected the myth of their generation's apathy, who left their homes and their families and job, all for a little play, and went on, it says. And then organized, proved that more than 2 centuries later, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people has not perished from the earth. This is your victory. But again, he's echoing back to Lincoln's emancipation, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And he says it grew out of it grew strength from young people who have rejected the myth of their generation's apathy.
That's amazing.
Is there a new generation? Maybe even, you know, we're not the youngest, we're not the most spring chicken, but is there a new generation that's saying, look, it doesn't matter the color of a man's skin.
Absolutely.
Like Martin Luther King. It doesn't matter the color of a man's skin. It's the content of his character.
Absolutely. I have for instance.
So let's embrace it.
No, well, I'm saying, look, you have the people who lived during the 60s. You have the people who lived during the 70s and 80s, which is basically us. Mm-hmm. Now you have this new generation that are growing up right now, in which they walk into school, and maybe a third of the people there are biracial.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't have much of that during my time, and I graduated high school in '87.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. So as time goes on, moves and things change.
Yeah, we are a melting pot.
Yeah, we're really melting it now.
We are. Tiger Woods,
right?
You know, has a Thai mother and African American father. We are a melting pot. Right. Everyone wants a part of this American dream. But okay, here we go. Our crack staff. Thanks to our crack staff. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. It's on our national symbol. E pluribus unum. That's what I see. That's what I see in Barack Obama.
Right.
That's what I see in the faces in I believe it was Grant Park in Chicago. A million or so people that were there.
Not only there, but what was so incredible?
Yeah.
Times Square.
Yeah.
Banging on the fence at the White House saying, "Get out!"
A spontaneous.
Spontaneous.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you know,
some of this was motivated by a need to change the resident of George W. Bush.
Well, it was just amazing. Can you name another election where people just came out across the globe, just celebration? That is amazing.
It is. It is.
It was an amazing moment, and something I'll never forget.
Yeah. Well, I would like to think my scenario, the glass is half full, rosy glasses scenario is that there really is. That every succeeding generation is becoming less and less racist, and it just doesn't matter. And that there really is a melting pot. That, there's distinction between communities and so forth, but at the same time, in America, it doesn't really matter what your background or your race is. You can aspire to the highest office. I mean, even, I looked at a little history of presidents. I mean, Ronald Reagan grew up in a small town in the middle of Illinois. His father was a hopeless alcoholic. He talks about as a child coming home and his father was dead, cold, stone drunk, asleep in the snow, and he had to pick him up and bring him in the house because it was an embarrassment to the family. You look at Bill Clinton from Arkansas. I mean, the guy played in the high school band. Now, he through his own merits and education and aspired, but he did not come from privilege.
Right.
We're not talking about blue bloods with a silver spoon in their mouth. Harry Truman, the same way. He was a failed haberdasher from Missouri, and yet he was able to aspire and able to achieve the highest office in the land. That's the story of America. We can reinvent ourselves. Our democracy can revitalize ourselves, and I think we're seeing it unfold right now in our time.
A great thing about Obama, and it was picked up on last night, a couple of days ago. They said, look, when he finishes his speeches, he doesn't say, "God bless America." He says, "God bless the United States of America."
Yes,
and that's a powerful thing to say, because he's like, we're all together here on this thing.
Yeah.
We might be conservative or liberal, black or white, straight or gay, but we're all in this together. We have to all come together and work for the common good.
Yeah.
And for him to say that at the end of his speech every single time just symbolizes this man is serious about this.
Yeah.
He's really serious. He's going to reach out across party lines, and we're going to compromise in getting things done for the common good.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. I think that's something that I wish more politicians would do nowadays.
Yeah, it does seem as if things have gotten fairly partisan, but
Fairly?
It's funny because sometimes you think, in our time, and there's a lot of things. If you're a student of history, you realize that partisan politics have been with us since, was it John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson?
Right.
That got a little partisan. And partisan politics has been part of it. And actually, the two-party system is part of the genius of our democracy. because it gives everyone an option. The Democrats didn't win. The Republicans didn't lose, in a sense. The people won. Because the one percentage, the one poll that you needed to know going into this election season is 85% of the people surveyed did not think we were headed in the right direction.
Right.
Now, we can sit here and argue and say, well, it's your fault, it's our fault, we needed to, we had to respond to 9/11, whatever. At this point, 85% of the people did not think we were headed in the right direction, 15% did. That meant that they were looking for change. And to Barack Obama's credit and his campaign staff, that was one theme that they continued to pound home: change,
what an
change,
amazing
change.
campaign
Every time you turned around, there were banners for change, change, change. And that was just echoing what the people wanted.
Right.
And in our democracy, the people have spoken, and we're able to reinvent ourselves and revitalize ourselves and just go in a different path.
Yeah.
But to your point about unity, this is what he said. He said, let us remember that it was a man from this state who first carried the banner of the Republican Party to the White House. And again, I'm originally from Illinois, so I have a little kind of, Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois, Barack Obama, a Chicago Bears fan, was from Illinois. He said, a party that was founded on self-reliance, individual liberty, and national unity. These are values we all share, and while the Democratic Party has won a great victory tonight, we do so with a measure of humility and determination to heal the divides that have held back our progress. As Lincoln said to a nation far more divided than ours, I mean, let's talk about partisanship. Like, you want to go back to 1865 and the Civil War? That got bloody.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten to that yet. We are not, and this is Lincoln speaking now, we are not enemies but friends. And though passions may strain, it must not break our bonds of affection. And to those Americans whose support I have yet to earn, Barack Obama speaking now, I may not have won your vote, but I hear your voices, and I need your help, and I will be your president too.
It's amazing.
Poetic, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it really is incredible, that speech that he gave.
To add real quick, the first time I heard Barack Obama speak live was back in 2006 when he came to Connecticut and was the host speaker, the speaker at the Jefferson Jackson Bailey fundraiser. Sorry, guys. And he spoke. When he spoke, he gave one of the most amazing speeches I've ever heard. Ever. And I said to myself, wow, he'd be a great president one day.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing. And then in 2008, Joe Biden came and spoke also. I was like, wow, that's really good. And this, to be
He's
able
a great vice president.
but just to be able to see these two guys speak.
Yeah.
And now they're the president and vice president. I think it's just a great thing. I'm very excited to see what this administration is going to do for this country. Yeah. And I hope he's able to back up everything that he said. Yeah. It's a great thing to speak, but it's another thing to govern. Yeah. And it's going to be very exciting to see what happens. And I hope everybody can come together for the common good, because we have some difficult moments ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where it's a very, very short honeymoon.
Oh,
because
yeah, very
immediately you have Russia moving nuclear capable missiles right up to the border of Poland.
Well, we got Sarah. She's keeping an eye on them, right?
Okay.
She's up there with Joe Sixpack and Joe the Plumber.
No. Sarah can see Russia from her front porch, but it's the back end.
Oh, okay.
It's like Siberia. There's just like a bunch of fishermen and stuff like that. The money part is Russia's border with the theoretically free Western Europe.
Right.
That's the trouble spot. They may invade Anchorage, but Mrs. Palin, no, they'll go out there on their snowmobiles and take care of that. But right off the bat, we have Iran kind of continuing to saber rattle. You have a lot of these problems, and look, I pray for Barack Obama. I know the theory is John McCain was president. He's kind of a tough guy, and I don't think there would be any in the capitals of our enemies as they decide what steps they're going to take in this geopolitical chess game, they might think, well, John McCain's a pretty tough dude. I don't know if we want to test him, but he could be in for some testing. No lesser a person than Joe Biden said as much during the campaign. And
you gotta love when Joe Biden speaks.
Yeah, he is our vice president, and we wish the best for him too.
The great thing about Obama, though, is that he'll sit down and he'll talk, and people will listen. I think this guy can communicate with other people. He can communicate with other leaders in a way that we don't have to pick up. You know what? For me, I like sitting down and talking rather than picking up a gun and start shooting.
Yeah.
Because we don't want a loss of life. We've had too much loss of life over the last few years with this war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. And I would like for people to sit down at the table and let's talk things through.
Yeah. I would too. I like talking rather than fighting. But I think that in response to 9/11, there had to be a muscular response.
No, of course.
That to not respond against an attack on your own home soil that slaughtered 3,000 of your fellow citizens.
I think that's completely different. That was a situation that needed to have a response, and nobody disagrees with that.
Okay, but I mean, some would say that.
We got North Korea, we got Pakistan, we got Iran, we got the Sudan still. We got areas that you just don't want to go John Wayne in there and start blowing things up either,
I agree. I will just say that President Bush, like him or hate him, his foreign policy was forward-leaning. There was an armed response to an attack on our freedom and our liberty, and it wasn't a let's have a conference and discuss what just happened because maybe we don't understand, fascist, Islamofascism and need to understand it more. But let's see. I mean, in a way, you can really, not to be too historically minded here, but look at the parallels between JFK and his term as a president and now Barack Obama. Because when JFK came in, he was considered somewhat of a lightweight. And he had to sort of make a point, and that's when he made with the
Bay of Pigs?
In the Bay of Pigs that were looking to overthrow Fidel Castro. Who would think he's lived through like 8 presidents? Right. But anyways, so he goes in to try to flex his muscle so he can't be pushed around in the Bay of Pigs, and he's rebuffed. And that led directly to the Cuban Missile Crisis, where then they thought, well, this guy, we can handle him. He didn't follow up any support with those mercenaries or former Cuban exiles that were sent in there. He's weak. Let's put these nuclear missiles there. And that was about as close as we've come to an all-out nuclear war was during that time period. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, everyone tends to agree. So as his presidency moves forward, I wish him the best of luck. I hope he doesn't overreact. I hope he does more diplomacy. But at the same time, if we were all angels, there would be no need of government. And I think there has to be a firm response to protect.
I think nobody disagrees with that. But we have other things on the plate also that are equally as troubling. This economy is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And we need that should be the #1 priority to get this economy straightened out. Because without an economy, look what happened to Russia. We won because we bankrupted them.
Yeah, it was a big poker game. And Ronald Reagan put in all the chips, and they didn't have enough chips to match his.
If you recall, the first term of Ronald Reagan was the first couple of years was pretty tough because the economy was real bad back then. I'm from Hartford. I remember that stuff.
Yeah, no, it was. It was. Okay, you have some interviews that you did, and what else do we have? And by the way, the number here is 792-4101. We're supposed to have a professor from Howard University calling in,
all right.
And Ivan Alsmy is going to be calling in as well. So we're looking forward to that. 792-4101. But what did you come up with?
Okay, well today the Chris Murphy campaign gave me a call, told me that he would be down at Jake.
Did he win that against Dave Cappiello?
Did he really?
Yeah,
he beat Dave in his own little, he beat Dave in Danbury, which goes to show you that lawn signs don't win elections.
He did have quite a few lawn signs.
Quite a few. And go pick them up, please. They're annoying. Beat Dave pretty solidly in the 5th District. And Jim Himes, that race against Chris Shays, I would have never thought he would beat Chris Shays by that large of a margin.
Well, when you look at the numbers, which I think you have, I don't know if we can get them on the air, but the numbers coming out of Bridgeport just overwhelmed.
Remember what I told you last week?
Yeah, Bridgeport.
I said Bridgeport is the one. If it comes out of Bridgeport, Himes is going to win, and Bridgeport came through in a big way.
Yeah.
In a real big way.
Yeah.
Somewhere Diane Farrell's just so upset.
Yeah. And when you think about it, Diane Farrell ran twice against Chris Shays.
Lost by that much, both times.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was one of the closest elections in the country, congressional elections. And then here comes now Congressman Himes, and he's one of these Goldman Sachs executives from Greenwich. That thought, I mean, you cannot swing a cat in Washington D.C. right now without hitting a former Goldman Sachs guy.
Right.
I mean,
right.
God bless these stockbrokers. They've come up with these mortgage-backed securities and cause all this trouble on Wall Street, and then those smart ones bail out in time. To come and run for public office.
Jim Himes has had a great life. He's got a great background. Has a lot more to. He's got a lot more to him.
So he didn't have a hand in these mortgage-backed security problems.
Not as much as David Cappiello did.
Well, I guess
the mortgage broker.
Yeah. I mean, but we had the current treasurer or Secretary of the Treasury, the governor of New Jersey is a Goldman Sachs guy, and now the congressman from the 4th Congressional District. I mean, I guess there's just the tip of the iceberg.
We just got to move forward, see what happens.
With all these smart Harvard, MBA, financial guys running around, why in the world did my 401k lose 35% of its value? I mean, who the heck is running this thing? Deregulation. Okay, so that's it. So basically, we've got to have government control all this, and we never have.
Look what happened when you allowed Wall Street to regulate themselves.
Yeah. Well.
But you wanted to talk about the video.
The video, yes. Okay. What do you have?
The video. I went to JK's. Like I said, I met up with Congressman Murphy.
What is JK?
JK's. I got to take you there one day. It's the best place in Danbury for a hot dog.
Okay.
Great place.
Okay.
Congressman Murphy was there thanking his supporters. Thanking residents for his campaign.
Right.
And while he was there, I caught up with him, along with the News Times and WLAD, and we were able to ask him some questions about the campaign and about what Barack Obama's presidency or his win meant in terms of the country. And I also talked to State Representative Jason Bartlett, who was there, about Barack Obama, what that meant to him, as well as his campaign, because he had a pretty tough campaign against the Bethel Republicans and the smear machine that was happening with him. So
that was Jason Bartlett.
Jason Bartlett, the state rep from the 2nd District, which covers.
He's won. Just to be, Chris Murphy won.
Chris Murphy.
Jason Bartlett won.
Yep.
Okay, and Tony Boucher from the 26th state, he's a Republican, won.
Close race, by the way. That was a close race.
It was fairly close, but luckily Ridgefield came
ones.
through big time for Tony. So Tony, you owe us big time. And then John Fry won handily for the state rep race.
That's 111.
111. Yeah, that's out of Ridgefield.
Let's see.
Chris Shays lost.
Chris Shays lost.
Perkins lost.
Perkins lost, but on the upside, Perkins did win Danbury, which is pretty remarkable, seeing that he was only one of 2 people on the Common Council who voted against ICE access. And while Mike McLaughlin, as his chief of staff for Mayor Boughton, was a hard supporter of ICE access.
Now, was that race close, or was that did McLaughlin win?
Well, he didn't.
I mean, basically, what I'm saying is, if you have Mayor Boughton on your side and his machine, if you will, behind you.
Well, the machine didn't come through. McLaughlin lost Danbury.
Well, that's true.
He lost Danbury by a lot. It was shocking. He lost by over 1,000 votes. The reason why McLaughlin won is because the other areas that make up that district are heavy Republican.
How much do you attribute that to the Obama coattails? Because that certainly I mean, I would say, absent Barack Obama in this election cycle, Chris Shays returned to Congress. Would you agree?
I think it's more than that. I think people were just fed up. They're just fed up with everything. True, it could have been Barack Obama, but it could have been any Democrat that was in there. Hillary Clinton probably could have had the same type of landslide. People wanted to, quote-unquote, throw the bums out. And I think that had more to do with the outcome of a lot of these elections than anything else.
Okay.
Now remember, McLaughlin won. He was a Republican. If it was really a Democratic wave, Perkins would have won.
Yeah.
Hartwell would have won.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty close. Hartwell.
It was a close race.
And Tony Boucher comes in with years of experience in Hartford.
Yeah.
And I would say a more prepared candidate. John Hartwell, first time running for office.
I tell you, when we were at the debate and he hit her on the committee attendance, he ran a spirited, good campaign, a smart campaign, hitting her in what I would call Achilles' heel, and made that an issue. And I think it probably made a difference in some of the votes that he got. When you go up against an incumbent, you have to go after the record. Yeah. That's the way. Look, Di Masters didn't do a very good job in running.
She did, actually. She had a rather negative piece that went out in the closing days of the campaign.
You can't do it in the closing days of the campaign.
Well,
you got to start. You got to start from the beginning and just hit on the record. We were at the debate. It almost seemed like they wanted to, hold hands.
Yeah. Well, all right. What do you have? Can we roll these tapes? Or do you? Yeah, there was the Bull Moose party that Teddy Roosevelt had back in like 1910 or something like that. We should have the Caribou party. So we could write in Sarah Palin. But do we have the?
We were obviously thrilled with the margin of victory, and that it came from all corners of the district. From Simsbury to Salisbury to Danbury to Meriden, we had tremendous turnout and big, healthy margins. I clearly think that the enthusiasm for Obama had something to do with it, but we spent 2 years working our tails off to try to connect this office to the people of the district, and I think that. I think that people responded to our outreach efforts, whether it was holding our office hours at supermarkets rather than town halls, or making door knocking a technique of getting constituent input rather than getting votes. I think that we've connected people to their congressman in a way that they haven't seen in a while.
There's been a lot of talk about the youth really getting involved in this election this time around. Is that something that you're excited about? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the last 2 years in high schools and middle schools, and I'm so excited to see that it's cool for kids to be involved and talk about politics for the first time in my lifetime. And I have not seen the numbers here in this district yet as to youth turnout across the country. It seems that there was a real surge, and my hope is that this is, like many of the baby boom generation, look at 1960 as the year that they had their faith in politics restored. I think that 2008 will be the year that rescues this young generation from the brink of losing faith in politics.
There's a lot of high expectations, obviously, going in now after the election. Your thoughts on that? I mean, is it going to be difficult to meet those expectations?
Well, I think that the high expectations are going to be a challenge. People are not expecting the Obama administration to just be better than the Bush administration. They're expecting a real effort to heal this country, and I think that whether we're talking about economic reform, healthcare reform, or energy reform, maybe the most important thing for Obama to do is make it bipartisan reform, and that won't be easy. I mean, because there still are major policy gaps between the right and the left, and Republicans and Democrats. But if there's anyone that can bring them together, it's Barack Obama.
Speaking about another race that happened in Connecticut, what do you think about the significance of Jim Himes winning over Chris Shays?
Well, I mean, as people get to know Jim Himes, they're going to love him. I mean, this is just an incredibly down-to-earth guy who's going to do a great job for that district. Chris Shays, served incredibly honorably for a very long time, and he often was, running against the tide in Washington. But when it came down to it, there were too many instances in which, he and the Bush administration were on the same side, and I think people wanted a different direction. So I can't wait to serve with Jim he's going to do a great job for the 4th District.
And one more fast thing about Barack Obama's win. What did you think about the celebrations in the streets and the out support and support? What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I really was, so glad to see that the entire world was celebrating Barack Obama's victory. We've got a tremendous amount of work to do here in this country, but we've got to have people's faith in America restored around the world. And the fact that just a simple election can make people around the world start to believe in America again is a great start.
Okay, I'm here with Jason Bartlett, State Rep for the 2nd District. I just want to get your opinions and your thoughts on Barack Obama's victory on election night.
Well, basically, I really have one thing to say, and that is that I'm honored to have been on the same ballot as Barack Obama. It's a historic night, and to be a part of history and actually be on the ballot, I want to get one and cut it out and frame it because, it was just such an historic night. So as an African American, as a father of 2, I just know that, my kids are going to be so much better off, that our country's going to be so much better off, that, we have an African American, a black person leading this country and bringing us into another generation. And, I think he is post-racial. He represents a post-racial moment, but for those of us who are of color, it's still extremely meaningful. And we look forward to the transition of actually taking on so many of the issues that affect our community and that affect the community at large. So, my big thing is I was on the ballot with him, and I'm pretty excited about that and honored by it.
Now, I wasn't able to get your victory speech on election night, but give me your thoughts about you winning a 2nd term in the 2nd District.
Well, for me, I'm just appreciative. I'm grateful. I think that, as an incumbent now, we have a record. We run on our record. I'm very proud of it. And people were able to see through some of the craziness that happened in the town of Bethel, see through negative campaigning and just say, does Bartlett deserve to be reelected or not? And I try to communicate a positive message to speak to that and to, like Barack Obama, have a vision. For me, it's the 2nd District, and you got to have a vision for what you want to do going forward and have a plan and build off of what you've begun. And that's what I tried to do, and I'm just very grateful to the voters that they sent me back.
All right, well, thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it.
Quote from Barack Obama's speech. He's talking about, the question says, the answer spoke by young and old, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican, black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, gay, straight, disabled, and not disabled. Americans sent a message to the world that we have never been a collection of red and blue states. We are always and always will be the United States of America. It's the answer that led those who have been told for so long by so many to be cynical and fearful and doubtful that what we can achieve to put their hands on the arc of history and bend it one more time towards the hope of a better day. It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did this day in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America. And I think it has. Historically, we're running some of the newspaper ads and our newspaper, the headlines, and it really was historic, and it really is neat to see the continuity of Lincoln and the Gettysburg Address, Martin Luther King and the I Have a Dream speech, and now Barack Obama. Barack Obama is yet to prove himself as in the presidency, but just coming to this point is really historic, and it's been very interesting for me to just witness it and see it, how it's unfolded.
Nobody thought this man had a chance prior to the Iowa caucuses.
Well, even in Illinois, the fact that he got elected to be a United States Senator, which was a bit of an accidental senator. The guy who was running against, some guy named Ryan, had a very untoward divorce settlement, and some of the allegations in that divorce settlement came to light and as a result of that, he sort of backed out of the senatorial campaign. And who was it, Alan Keyes?
The great Alan Keyes.
That kind of parachuted in, and that was a non-starter. So, boom, here you have Barack Obama being a senator. And then he gives a speech at the 2004 Democratic Convention.
Yes.
That seemed to be, fairly eloquent.
Amazing.
And then from there on out, and it culminates with he's going to be our president.
And remember, before the Iowa caucuses, it was about Hillary Clinton versus Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah. Oh, everyone
had
absolutely. It was going to be Hillary Clinton.
Right.
The Democratic primary was just sort of a show before the inauguration of Hillary Clinton. This was going to be the crowning of the Queen. And Barack Obama himself, because I remember he said it. He said, "If you've taken on the Clinton political machine, you've beaten the best."
Right.
Because they play rough and they play for keeps.
Right.
And everything they threw at him, he was able to handle. But really, when you look back at it, Hillary Clinton won New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, California, all these huge states that you need to win. And Barack Obama was like, okay, Iowa caucus, okay. See, he even lost in New Hampshire. He won Vermont, won the South Dakota caucuses or whatever, and he just strategically built what he needed to build.
He won caucuses, and you got to remember also, there's a point where he won 11 in a row.
The Barack Obama did, or Hillary Clinton did?
Barack.
Okay, because Hillary Clinton put together a pretty good string as well.
It's momentum. And Obama at one point, he just had momentum, and there was just no way you can stop him.
Yeah.
And they were throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the guy. He just kept moving because he had a movement behind him of people who were giving small donations on the internet.
That's true.
Whereas Hillary Clinton was doing it the old-fashioned way, going out and getting the big fat cats to donate to her campaign.
Yeah.
Obama had people who were giving like $5, $10, $20 via the internet.
Yeah.
And that just changed the whole game.
Yeah.
And Obama can thank Howard Dean for that, because he's the person who started off the whole online sensation in terms of giving money to a campaign. So he just completely changed the way politics is run in this country in terms of a national level.
Yeah, no, it is interesting to see how technology factors into all this. The blogosphere, which I know you're very well versed in, and how it all came together and brought us to this point. Why don't you go through some of the local races? What are some of the what surprised you? Just run down.
Well, all right. Some of the things that surprised me. Let's go back to the state Senate race between McLaughlin and Perkins. We can see the numbers right here.
Yeah.
McLaughlin picked up 10,900 under the Republican ticket, while picking up another 904 under the independent ticket. That's an old strategy, that old political tactic that the Republicans in this area usually do.
Okay.
It is. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it seemed to work.
Well, okay. No, that's another whole story.
Okay.
While the Democrat, Dwayne Perkins, picked up 11,291 in Danbury, and picked up another 1,200 under the Working Families group. What's significant about this is that the name McLaughlin goes back a long ways in Danbury. I mean, the founding people who came into Danbury, one of the families was the McLaughlins.
Yeah.
He's the mayor's chief of staff. So the whole machine of this campaign was centered right here in Danbury. And he lost.
How many votes did Barack Obama win Danbury with?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to pick that up.
Okay, because I would submit to you that Perkins essentially winning the popular vote of Danbury may have had something to do with the Obama.
Well, look at the other areas here, though. I mean, look, in Bethel, he picked up McLaughlin beat Perkins in Bethel. It's right next door.
Yeah.
New Fairfield, he crushed them 2-1, basically.
Yeah.
Sherman, he beat him. So I don't know if the Obama wave is really, it did have somewhat of an effect.
It had an effect on Chris Shays.
Well, it had an effect on Chris Shays because those people in the urban areas came out to vote.
You think folks in Bridgeport have some great knowledge and love of Mr. Himes from Greenwich, Connecticut, and appreciated his view on health care?
I wish I had the numbers to compare from 06 to 04 and see exactly. But yeah, of course, People in Bridgeport, like I said last week, came out to vote.
By the way, that's where
And
I
it's not-
found this T-shirt. Where we have a painting project going on in Bridgeport, and I saw they were selling these on the street. That's where I picked
nice.
that up.
But, you know, I think it just shows that in terms of Danbury, I think what happened was you had a great presidential ticket and you had a great congressman. And Chris Chris Murphy, excuse me. Which was another thing I wanted to bring up again. Chris Murphy beat David Campiello in Danbury.
Yeah.
You know, that right there, I think, is a bigger win than when Chris Murphy beat Nancy Johnson in '06, where in '06, not only did Murphy beat Johnson in Danbury, he beat her on every single voting machine in Danbury.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's amazing. It just goes to show you that I think the people responded to Chris Murphy's performance in Congress over the last 2 years. He's always been back down to the area. He did some great work in terms of like what he's done with Candlewood Lake. Very positive campaign he ran. It really didn't go that negative at all. Whereas Capriello just went from day one straight negative. I remember he was a guest here on the show.
Yeah.
I think 95% of what came out of his mouth was just completely negative and attacking.
All right, let me
You just can't do that. You got to offer people something in terms of what you're going to do if elected to office versus just attacks. You got to balance them out.
Well, this is what my analysis of what the political season we've just been through, and that is we had an economic meltdown that may have happened much before, but on September 15th, when Lehman Brothers went under and people saw the stock market just tank and they feared for the future, we're still in the middle of this. But you had this economic meltdown. You had a Republican in the White House for 2 terms. Historically, if you look at it, after 2 terms of one party in the White House, usually there's a switch. I think all the stars were aligned for there to be an overwhelmingly Democratic swing in this election season. Now, remember that in 1992, when Clinton was first elected, thanks to the help of that jug-eared guy from Texas, from Ross Perot, he actually didn't win a majority of the vote. He won a plurality. That's my little parlor game. Who received more votes for president, Michael Dukakis in 1988 or Bill Clinton in 92? The answer, Dukakis in 88. But that's ancient history. But then you notice that in 1994, that's when the Republicans took control of Congress. That was Newt Gingrich's contract with America, so there was a bit of a swing, which gets back to what I said at the beginning. It isn't the Republicans that are in charge. It isn't the Democrats that are in charge. It's the people that are in charge, and that's how our democracy is set up, and that's what we've seen happen.
No, the people had their say. And I think it was reflective upon the results that they did not like the way the country was going and the direction, the ways they're going, and they voted people out.
All right. So now what do the Democrats have to do? They've just been handed the keys to the kingdom. They have the White House, they have the Senate, they have the Congress. They have and have had for a long time a majority in the state representative office, in the state Senate office. The only thing they don't have is the governor's mansion, and
for now.
Well, yeah. Let's not get too greedy. Throw us a bone here. You just took our last Republican congressman in all the New England states, in Chris Shays. It's completely, what do they call it? Blue England. It's no longer New England.
That's
it's
right.
Blue England. So now, what do the Democrats need to do?
Everybody knows priority number 1 is the economy. Nothing else matters. You got to get the economy back on track.
And how are they going to do that? I mean, it seems like they've thrown everything: stimulus packages, bailout packages, buying AIG Insurance Company. Now you got the car General Motors coming to Washington with their hand out. What are you going to do? Just give money to everyone and hope for the best?
Well, I don't think you can give money and hope for the best, but there are some things that happened that created this fiasco. I'm not the biggest fan of the bailout. Personally, I think you got these crazy home loans out there with these crazy interest rates that are going up and down. I would have liked the government to come in and say, hey, look, let's take that crazy mortgage here and we'll give you a fixed rate so we can keep people in their homes. It's important to keep people in their homes. If people start losing their homes, everybody suffers.
But I mean, some of these mortgages that banks they were sort of imposed on the banks. I mean, some of these laws that were passed by Barney Franks, Chris Dodd. These are people that were doing
They
oversights.
voted for those?
Yeah, they voted for them. They made sure that they were
Who
initiated.
had the oversight when it first went down? Now remember, Barney Frank, Chris Dodd have only been in the oversight position for the last 2 years.
Well, all I can tell
We
you
can
is
go
that
back. Remember, Republicans were in charge of the House since '94 until 2006.
okay. Well,
The fiasco, and
I
when did the
can show it.
deregulation happen with Phil Graham and his wife and the Enron loophole and all that nonsense, and the massive deregulation in which the Republicans said, let Wall Street govern themselves.
Well, all I can tell you is you can go to YouTube right now and put in Barney Frank, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and you will see testimony in front of their government oversight, where you had an auditor from these things saying that these banks are in trouble. What they're showing on their balance sheets aren't accurate, and we need to stop these loans. And I can show you videotape of Barney Frank yelling at them, and Maxine Waters doing the same, saying there is no problem. The emperor is dressed. Everything is fine. And as a matter of fact, the only problem is you guys are pointing out that there's a problem. I'll show you the tape.
Now remember, I got a blog, so I'll take this video clip that we have right here, and I'll make a nice post on everything. I'm quite sure the situation was a little different than what you're describing, but I'll do a post on the website.
Okay, well, post that tape.
You got
post
it.
that video of Barney Frank saying, that there is no problem, and you guys should all just be quiet. Well, this has been very interesting. I do think, and by the way, again, the Pathways Academy is going to come on tomorrow. That's Friday from 12 to 1. So I think they're going to be showing it at their school, and that's very, very impressive what they're doing.
I can't
over
wait
there.
to see that. I hear a lot about that.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking forward to seeing the tape.
Yeah, and then also that's going to come on next Thursday at our regularly scheduled time from 9 to 10. A whole show about Pathways Academy, so you'll get a chance to see yourself on TV and also learn more about what they're doing. Thank you very much for being here, by the way.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I really think we're going to look back and tell our grandkids, and should we live so long, our great-grandkids, that what we saw this past week and what has transpired over this most recent presidential campaign really is history. What started with Lincoln in the Emancipation Proclamation and followed up with Martin Luther King and the progress with the Civil Rights Movement has seen its fruition in President-elect Barack Obama. Only in America, to quote another great African-American campaign, only in America could that happen. And I'm proud to be an American, and we wish him the best. And the Republicans will be here as the opposition party. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on Ideas of Work and Beyond. Good night.